Right, well, I wasn't entirely wanting to make this video, to be honest with you, because I was going to leave it until tomorrow, because I just wanted to think about what had happened and think about what the situation was and put my thoughts together. But then I thought, well, no, it's easier to just do it now while the thoughts are in my head, because I can convey it all to you guys. You can let me know your thoughts as well on the situation. But it was another really bad game by Crystal Palace. You know, I knew playing Brighton was always going to be a very tough game. You know, they're our rivals. You know, there's a lot of history between us. It's always a bit of an edgy game. It's been a draw for the last few times that we've played each other. So I knew it wasn't going to be an easy game, but I genuinely felt that with the new signings we had and the win against Sheffield United, that it would give us a bit of an impetus to go on and get something from the game. Big disappointment when both Eze and Elise were not in the match team. It was not unexpected necessarily. I thought Elise would play some part, and it turned out that he did, but I'm going to go into that. That was a difficult thing, and at that point I did think to myself, we're going to struggle, because without Elise and Eze, we were not a very good team. At least under Roy, we're not a very good team without those two in it. So that was a big problem for me. Munoz started the game, which I thought was really good. It was great to see him start the game. Walton was on the bench, who I imagined would be on the bench. I thought that would happen. But really, it was another game when just after the kickoff, we conceded a goal, and I think it's like the third game we've done that now, where we've conceded really early on in the game. We just don't get set quick enough, and I think teams now are learning that this is the case, and they're actually going for it early on because they know that we're vulnerable very early on in the game. I think, you know, it's just going to be a pattern now that could, unless we try and stop it now, is going to continue for the rest of the season. But anyway, so that early goal worried me. It worried me against Sheffield United, but I knew after that goal we were quickly on the ball. We were quickly playing really well. The difference was we had Eze and Elise against Sheffield United. We didn't have them, obviously, in the game against Brighton. And I thought, well, where are the goals going to come from? Where are we going to be? Where are we going to be creating from here? So it was from that point of view, when we went 1-0 down, I thought this is going to be a very difficult thing to come back from, and it was. For the majority of the game, in fact, not just the first half, but for the majority of the game, we were second best. You know, we didn't seem to have a cohesive plan. We didn't seem to have an idea in our mind what we were doing. You know, we were playing the ball around, but we didn't seem to have a clear-cut outlet, so as that, you know, people pass to this person to get them out, or people pass to that person to get them out, or when we're in this position we pass to them. Didn't seem to have a cohesive plan. We were just kicking it around, waiting for someone to make a run and then trying to play the ball through. It was a very difficult thing to see, to be honest with you. And then we had an injury to Mark Gahey, which is a huge injury again for us, because there's another key player. I don't know what the injury is going to be, obviously, whether it's a long term or whatever, but it was a big blow for us. And Walton came on for him, and Chris Richards went to right back. He's not a right back. Chris Richards went into the back, but he's not a right back, and that just caused a big problem for us, because he was again played out in the wrong position. So we then looked even more vulnerable than we had beforehand. You know, we looked vulnerable before that, but once we lost Gahey, we looked even worse. It was just one problem after another, and of course, during that spell, well, just after that spell, Brighton managed to get 2 goals in quick succession, and that was really the nail in the coffin, I think, for the game, because at that point we were 3-0 down, very little in terms of us going forward. And even though Henderson wasn't continually having to make saves and things like that, we just weren't firing. We just weren't playing at all. And so, you know, it was more a case of Brighton didn't attack us more than they could have done, rather than we stopping Brighton from attacking us. But anyway, it was a very difficult first half. Second half, Elise was brought on at the beginning of the second half, and literally after about 5 or 10 minutes, he action that he needed to be substituted, and he went off. He went straight down the tunnel. So I don't know what that situation was, whether he was injured before he even started the game, you know, whether he was carrying that injury that he's had, whether he was carrying it and Roy just said, look, we need you, and he went on, and then it failed and he had to come off, or whether he was actually, you know, okay to go on and it just failed. I don't know. He wasn't doing anything particularly strenuous necessarily. I mean, he was running around obviously, but he wasn't doing anything particularly strenuous. So that's another real blow. If we lose Elise again, possibly losing Eze for a little while, we've lost Gehi on top of what we've already got. So, you know, there were a lot of people on Twitter and who were saying that Elise should never have come on, and I would agree. I mean, yeah, okay, Roy probably wanted to try and give us some impetus, give us a chance to get back into the game, but I just think that Elise was a bit too much of a risk to do that. You know, you bring on somebody else, you don't necessarily do that. And when Elise went off, he brought on França, which I think he probably should have done from the beginning. He shouldn't have brought on Elise, he should have just brought on França. But that was another big blow to us. And then we managed to get a goal back when it was more to the case that Brighton was kind of relaxing and took their foot off the gas, rather than us having a real, you know, moment of creativity. And we managed to get a goal back. It was a good goal. Munoz, you know, had the ball and passed it back to Anderson. Quick ball in. Mateta with the header. Good, you know, a good bit of play. Probably the only good bit of play in our game. And at 3-1, you're thinking, okay, it's a goal. Maybe, you know, if we're lucky, we'll get a second one, perhaps, but it's not going to really change that much. But then later on, Brighton went on and got a fourth, and it was just, I haven't even got words to describe it really. You know, we had Ahamada came on at some point in the second half, and it was difficult, because I don't think it was necessarily that, you know, these players were, you know, the players that came on seemed to play really well. I mean, França came on, Ahamada came on, and you know, they played all right. They played well. You know, França was trying to create things. Ahamada was trying to run around in the midfield and create stuff like that. I think Munoz had a good game. He was up against it, but he had a good game. I think that Wharton started off a little bit wobbly, but grew into the game as it went on, and actually turned out to not be too bad at all. His passing was basic but effective, and that's what you want. You know, you just wanted to keep to the basics, and he was doing that. So, you know, I think it's just one of those games where we just weren't firing. We didn't have a plan, and that's the biggest issue, I think, for us, that we didn't have any kind of idea what we were doing. So, you know, there was obviously a lot of discontent among Palace fans at the game. A lot of them went before the end of the game, and then at the end of the game, when, you know, some of the players went over to the Palace fans to clap them, the Palace fans came down and had a real go at them, particularly I think Joachim Anderson, who, you know, I'm being honest here, didn't look like he gave a what's it. He didn't look like he cared today. You know, he was very matter of fact. I don't think he really wanted to be there, which is crazy when you think that he's one of the reasons we've had such a good defence. Him and Gay together, you know, they've been a rock for us, but lately they've just been completely the opposite. You know, they've just not had the drive, determination, whatever you want to call it. It's just not been there, and so it's difficult to pinpoint one particular issue today. It was just a general lack of creativity and understanding and plan and anything like that. Will Roy stay or go? I think everyone, including myself, think he should go for the best of the team. To bring in somebody else. I mean, you know, if they bring in another manager, it's not going to be an easy transformation after that. We've still got some huge players out for, well, who knows. Doucouré and I've spoken about Doucouré before. He's a huge loss for us. You know, you know, we mustn't underestimate how much of an issue it is not having Doucouré in the middle there. So, you know, just not having him in there, not having Eze and Elise, not having Gahey, you know, a manager coming in is going to have a hard time. It's not going to be easy. You know, we're not going to suddenly start playing good football because we've got so many good players out. So it's a difficult situation. I don't think Roy should stay, but I don't think a new manager is going to change things overnight because we've got so many injuries to key players. It's going to be a huge battle until they get fit and back in the team again. So it's going to be a case of fighting for every single point, which we don't have at the moment. We don't have that fight. So maybe a new manager coming in will give us some fight, give us some steel to go out there and play for the badge, play for the club, which some of them don't seem to be doing at the moment. And a bit of a rant, but that's how I think it is at the moment for Crystal Palace. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. I'm kind of knew what they're going to be anyway, but please do share. And well, I'll see you next time.